I was working in finance, so I worked there for 7 years. I was working in Noida, as I born and brought up in Delhi. So I joined this job in finance for 7 years. Then everything was good there. Things were it seems good, but then something was off. So I decided to quit everything. I quit the job and I went to Mumbai with no prior experience, nothing, just this desire to learn something. That was my whole idea. I went there, but first 2 or 3 years it was just went away like in no time. I remember then the first thing I did, along with the writing, I created one group. I have to mention this because this is how we connected. This is how Satvesha, how Uditji connected. So what I did, I was all alone. I knew no one there. So I created this group called Screenwriter Circle. This was one platform where writers can discuss things. And if we see now this whole journey, now we have more than 21,000 writers in that platform. So that's how we started joining. And if I talk about my writing journey, it's been, it has its ups and downs, but I am kind of satisfied because the thing I was doing in Delhi, it's different here. Every day is a new day for me. And that's how we, try this thing. Let's have this, share this knowledge to people who are trying to start something, or who are willing to do this. So this webinar is for the people, the budding writers, also for the experienced ones. So we just want to share whatever we have, knowledge, experience, what you call them. So we are here to share those things. Yep.
I have a suggestion actually.
Yep.
I was thinking that since we are like, I think about 10, 11 of us, why don't we just, discuss the questions? Because, whatever questions anybody has, I mean,
Mhm.
there must be a reason everyone has joined in, right? So, I mean, there's one more person. So I'm just saying that, I mean, obviously, we had a plan to go one by one or whatever. But I think since it's not a very big group, it almost seems like, a bunch of people have come together in a living room. So let us, then conduct the session in that sense. I think that would be useful. Quick introduction. For me, I'm essentially a filmmaker. I studied from SRFTI, Satyajit Ray Film and Television Institute. I did direction and screenplay writing. I was with Shujit Sarkar's company for many years. I worked in his company as a director. I mean, initially I was an associate, an assistant associate, then I was a director, then I made an independent film, co produced, and put it out in the theaters like a proper release. But there was a lot of problems in the release with the distribution, and I had a deal with Eros, and my film was put on the platform, and then it was removed. So there was a lot of legal issues. So I learned that being a producer without having any connections is a very difficult job, and I think I was one of the only people who were able to actually release my film in the theater in a proper way. And I don't know how I was able to do it. I don't think I'll be able to do it right now today. Not that I'm interested. And since then, I was developing a lot of content, films and series. I was interested in longer format. I was not really interested in advertising. I had spent a lot of time in advertising and advertising films, the golden age, and it started deteriorating. And it was not something at all that interested me. And I was interested in longer format, in series and films, and I was them for myself. But a lot of things happened. There was a bunch of personal tragedies. A lot of things happened, and so a lot of my projects I sold as concepts to other people. And then lockdown happened, and a lot of people asked me because they liked what I was developing, and I was delving a lot into supernatural, horror, fantasy, all these unusual genres. So a lot of people were asking me to collaborate with them on their work. A lot of people were asking me to write. I was not essentially a writer, I mean, obviously, I had studied writing in a film institute, so I knew how to write. But nobody really teaches you how to write a series in a film school, if I can be honest. So, a lot of the knowledge I had to learn by myself, by doing courses, by watching YouTube videos and learning again and again, and watching many series, making a lot of self learning had to happen. And yeah, so I developed a bunch of series and feature films for people. Like I said, they were all very unusual genres. There were sitcoms, there were comedies, there were supernatural stuff, there was historical stuff. I developed a lot. I sold a lot of bunch of projects. Some of them got made, some of them are in post production, some of them were totally abandoned, despite having big collaborators, producers, directors, also a lot of things. And I'm talking about generally big production houses. So as of right now, I've just completed writing a horror comedy for a producer whose film was in Cannes. In fact, it is a winner in Cannes. So I just finished doing that, and and one of my screenplays got shortlisted in SWA Script Lab, and the same one got again selected in another program where there were a lot of international mentors. So yeah, so that and one couple of projects I'm trying to make. So that has been my journey so far, and every day some new things are happening. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Satresha ma'am. Am I audible now
Yes,
to
yes,
all?
please.
Yes.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I am Shweta and I am an educator and a writer. So, both the identities are very dear to me because I feel that whether you are a teacher or a doctor or you are appearing in an interview, we are telling stories all the time. You know, when we talk about ourselves, when we present ourselves in an interview, when we express our issues to a friend, we are telling stories, or we are motivating someone, we tell stories. So I was always interested in writing right from my childhood, but I started writing poems more. Over the period of time, I got to meet various people from various cultural backgrounds, and people would always interest me. I would love to observe them, their lifestyle, their conflicts, and I felt a strong need of sharing these stories because I know somewhere other people will also connect with them. And I wrote a collection of short stories called Mango Tree, a mango tree in the courtyard. It is available in the Amazon. And I wrote a novella on my another favorite genre, which is a thriller, a murder mystery. It is called The Hunting Song. It is also available in Amazon. And I'm more like you all, the one all you have participated today, still wanting to write stories, still learning. When I got in contact with Ajay sir, I learned the nuances of screenplay writing and what it is. So it gives your story a different dimension. And today we'll sit and discuss, and I hope we have something to share and learn about the whole story process.
Yeah, I think so. We should just jump to the questions since
Yes.
one, two, there is quite a lot of people. Let's just see how we can try to have a nice jamming session. What do you think, Udit?
Yeah, that would be fine with me.
Yeah, just moderate it. So who would like to ask a question? Yeah, go for it.
If anyone have questions,
Any?
also, yeah, you can let us know. Meanwhile, I can say one thing. I understand there are, not so many people there. I think 10 or 12 people there. But let's take it. See, we are recording this also. What we can
Yeah,
do, we it put as a separate video. So it has to be somewhere like a library. So you always, so someone if wants to learn something, it's has always there. So let's take it like a full webinar. Let's not, don't take that
yeah.
8 or 9
Yeah.
people only. Let's take it, this is our work, whether it's 5 or 6 people, we will put it
Yeah.
as library, and whenever we see it after 2 years, 3 years,
Yes.
5 years, we will have something to
Yeah.
learn. So
Yes.
Now I'm realizing it's very difficult to,
Mm-hmm.
I do take on different jobs as in translations, वगैरह. Uh, but now it's come to the point where I must write, and it's also come to a point where I don't know what is more acceptable for the audience and what I really need to be expressing, because that has been a problem with me since, as a person since childhood. So, yeah, that's it. That's all I wanted to put out there. And I wanted to ask how you keep going despite rejections. So, how do you do that? Yes.
Firstly, that screenwriting, filmmaking, any aspect of art, pursuing of arts is a expensive endeavor. I mean, let's not fool ourselves. I mean, um, it is an expensive endeavor because it is something that is solely driven by your passion. And whenever there are two aspects of it. Whenever you want something, when you're very passionate about, two things happen. I have noticed, whether or not you're good at it or whether or not that is of any value to anybody. Um, when you are really, passion is such a, things like passion, love, they are such intangible emotions that people, they do not fathom it. And you are likely to, you are the only person who can believe it. You are likely to get exploited. You are likely to face rejections because nobody understands the intangibility of that emotion other than yourself. So these are difficult things that one has to sort of process vis-a-vis trying to make a living, trying to do a job, trying to do things that is going to earn them a living. So although they have to somehow fall in line, but it may not happen, and it may not happen the way we want. So therefore it is an expensive endeavor. Secondly, you said something that, I used to have these dreams. I truly believe, and one of my favorite filmmakers is David Lynch, and he is always inspired by dreams. All his films are dream spaces. They only make sense in the dream world, they don't make sense in the logical world. So I can say that, dreams are very important. It's important to take your material dreams and try to make them, that is what he has essentially done. So if you have dreams that are fueling you, and Christopher Nolan is also one of them, all his scripts are mostly coming to him from his dreams. He has actually dreamt, and he goes back to sleep to dream. So whatever ideas we have that we want to write down, that we want to pursue in a creative form, dreams and dreaming correctly and also logically is a very good way to start. To good way to continue. So do not stop dreaming, not just, in the sense of the word, okay, I'm dreaming, but I dream that it'll be a good future, but it's not happening. But I'm saying, dream that you are writing better, dream your visuals, dream your narratives, because that can, and there is a method to this madness. If you want to delve into it, many directors have done it, many artists have done it. um, and the other aspect, as I mentioned, it is, it is an expensive pursuit to pursue. So therefore you have to be kind of mindful in that. Another very realistic thing that I can tell you is that, and this is from my own personal experience, I, like I said, I was not a writer. You just, I have a discipline. I mean, I never thought I was a disciplined person, but I have a discipline, whether or not anybody is giving me anything to do, whether I have a job or if I have to do something, I'm always writing every day. I'm always writing every day, like I am going to the gym every day. It doesn't matter if my body is getting better, it doesn't matter. The point of the matter is my body is getting better, my writing is getting better. So if we are thinking that, I'm not getting the job, I'm not getting the, I feel like just writing and rewriting and thinking and writing and coming up with ideas, it will hit. And that is the only way it has worked for me. I have written so much now, I have so much material. Even if none of those materials are coming to fruition, but just because I have written so much, that I get opportunities to write even more. So that is all I can say, that don't think about the money. Just think, if you can sustain yourself, I mean, I know it's difficult. Somehow if you figure out a way to sustain yourself, just keep writing. Don't think that this is going to um, okay, I'm only speaking from my perspective, I do not have any other perspective to offer you. Just do it every day. Just do not stop dreaming and believing. And even if you spend your entire life having done nothing, I'm telling you that is better than having not just sat in one place. So just do it. That is all I've got to say.
Did anyone
Thank
wants
you.
to
Very
add?
inspiring. Thank you.
Yeah. I
Yes.
will add
Okay.
there. First of all, I totally agree with Satvesha. You also mentioned, Dolly, about the rejections. Okay, so for me, rejection is a part of a journey. If I see a journey, whether you want to be a writer, whether you want to be any profession, there is a journey to get there. And rejection is a part. It's a like you won't get every time, approvals and satisfactions. Sometimes you get rejection. It's important for you because it tells you what you are not doing right. So whenever rejection happens to me, I take it very positively because it's a positive word, rejection, because it tells you have to do something else. You have to take a different point of view. So rejection is a part of journey and it's an important part of journey. Without rejection, if we don't have any rejection, if you see anyone, they have a lot of rejection. That's how they become strong. So if you want to reach somewhere, it has all their aspects, their rejection, their approvals, their satisfaction, sometimes some bad days, sometimes some good days. So it's a part of mixing everything. Tears are important equally like the smiles. So I believe rejection is a part of the journey and we should I appreciate it, and I also offer this thing to everyone that they should also appreciate rejection because that makes us strong. And in a long journey, being a writer, you need a lot of rejection because you need to be a lot of strong you need a strong person. So yeah, rejection is your tool to craft yourself.
So I very much agree. Yes, rejection is important because there's no fun without challenge. How will you grow otherwise? How will you push your boundaries? Second thing, do in the beginning, do not rely on your art to sustain yourself financially. Support yourself and keep your art free so that you are creative and you are not worried about paying your bills. Support your art by some other occupation in the beginning. And self discipline, it matters what Satvesha ma'am said. So I still have it written in front of me on my softboard. I have written that write hours, not pages. So that's what I decided it for myself, that for these many hours I will write daily, not one page, two page, maybe in 1 hour. I've decided if it's a paragraph or it's 3 pages someday, but self discipline counts. And
Yeah.
that's what I learned from Elizabeth Gilbert. If you read about these writers, J.K. Rowling, how they just read and listen to their interviews. It's very helpful. Thanks.
So I have these questions. One is related to genre, like,
Yeah.
for example, you mentioned comedy, horror, and then I think all of you have been writing, and what I've been hearing the common thread is write every day, and that's something I started recently. So I found it difficult to write. I started journaling. So did you like, for example, comedy, horror comedy seems like very interesting. Did you arrive on that, or was it a point in your in time where you said, okay, I'm going to start doing horror, but I'm going to add an element of comedy to it? So did it happen? Like, did you have the end in mind, or did it somewhere suddenly become horror comedy? I'm just asking because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have 2 3 genres in mind, and I want to
Hmm.
write along those lines. So I
Hmm.
want to kind of understand how this works.
Two things I want to mention to address your question in a proper way. Firstly, I'm very specific about what I want to write. I want to write about stories where I'm able to express some kind of female defiance. There is a protagonist. Not that I have not written stories about guys or men as protagonists, but right now I'm very focused on. I'm just speaking for myself. I'm very focused on protagonists which have are in some way uh, in defiance with the certain norm. And I'm not saying she's an activist or anything. In any narrative, there is a subtle to different levels of defiance, which I am trying to explore through all kinds of genres. And I'm also interested in urban stories. Now, I was only on my own developing these stories. There is a horror fantasy screenplay that I said that I wrote on my own, and that got selected and all of that. And horror comedy is something that I actually never thought of doing, because frankly it is not a genre, especially the way the horror comedy that happens in India. It is absolutely not the kind of thing I ever wanted to do. But I had written a classical horror story, a horror fantasy story, and then this producer, like I said, it's kind of connected to what I was telling Dolly, that I had developed these stories for myself to create and to direct and to make. And because I had done it for myself, and because maybe some screenplay competition something got selected and nobody asked me for it and nobody paid me for it, but a producer read it and he said that I have a horror comedy, and would you like to do it? And I had actually I had done some content for some cricket related content, and somebody had called me and they said, Rohan Sippy is looking for a sitcom writer, would you like to write a sitcom? And I liked urban, like I said, I like urban stories, urban characters, and I like comedy. So I thought, yeah, okay, sure, I'll just write something. And they liked it and they hired me. So now I had my horror stories and I had written for Rohan Sippy, which is comedy. So this producer comes and says, you have never written a horror comedy before. You have written horror and you have written comedy. Would you want to write a horror comedy? And I would have never wanted to write a horror comedy, but the fact that he was interested and he thought that maybe I could explore it, and I did. So a lot of the things just comes about because you have done here and there things. So that's what I'm saying. So for me, I can tell you it's very important that I stick to doing what I like to do, unless somebody is paying me to do something they want me to do. But everybody is on their own to. I hope I'm able to answer your question.
So that is pretty clear and exhaustive. I kind of got an answer to a couple of other questions I had. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, so my question is what challenges do you face when you're adapting a book or maybe a true story into a screenplay? Because, for example, while reading a book, one can define a scene, maybe a woman, maybe you define a strand of the hair and the color of the eyes, and you can describe that maybe in a page or two. But when you're putting the same effect on screen, that can only take perhaps a second or maybe 3 seconds or 4 seconds. So how do you maintain the balance, and what kind of other challenges that you face when you're adapting a story from a book or from a true story into a screenplay?
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
come back
Anushri,
after
I
you.
have adapted one novel that is a paid job I'm talking about. I have actually adapted one more, a couple of more, which have not been pursued. One of them is a very big novel, which I only actually brought to the producer. This book is by Amitabh Ghosh, and it was not something that was acquired by anybody. And a producer who is quite big, and he has made some international films, and he wanted me to. We were just talking, and he asked me if I would bring him, if I knew of any book, and he had given me very specific set of um, details. And he said if I knew of such a book, then I would bring that to him. Then he would be interested in collaborating with me. So I had read the story of Amitabh Ghosh called The Calcutta Chromosome, and it fit the bill. And I had spoken to him, and he had got in touch with Amitabh Ghosh's um, publishers, and he had sort of acquired it, and but actually the deal fell through. So I had sort of adapted that to a certain extent. And year before last, I started working on a project. This is a commission project by Pratilipi had commissioned a few producers to develop a few of their stories, perhaps three or whatever. So yeah, the question you asked was how do you know what to like you said, this strand of hair and her beauty and her walk and everything. But for in a cinematic sense, you only see one shot or one frame and all of that. So what I understood after adapting that story is that you really you forget about, and this is something that will be very useful to you if you read novels by John Updike. And there is a BBC series, another series called Ways of Seeing. If you guys as a cinema writer, you all should really get into it and read John Updike. It's when you're writing a novel, you write anyway. It's just prose. It's words, literature. And there are very few cinematic writers like that who write as if you are seeing the visuals, and John Updike is very good at that. So when you have a novel which is very visual and very vast, and something like a Dune which is almost seems like unfilmable, then you really try to crystallize the idea into literally one line. you know you make notes, and you try to crystallize the idea. You start off with beats. Let's say that in this page or in this chapter, these are the beats. Forget about the other description. You just write the beat. In this chapter, this happened. And you have maybe 100 beats. Okay, and then you compress it, and don't worry about the language, and you bring it down to literally maybe 250 words or one line, that the story is really about this. Once you know that, okay, the story is about this, then from this chapter in your beats, you will understand that, okay, this was about her beauty. And why is that important to this story? This was about this guy's cunningness. And why was that important to the story? So whatever is important to the story, you keep, and the rest you just leave it for the director to figure it out. And then you just flesh out the story, and you make the screenplay. And when you're writing the screenplay, and when you're writing the action lines, maybe just throw in a little mood, that her walk was so enticing, or his ways were cunning, or something, just to throw in a little bit of the mood of the film, of the book, into the film.
So, my second question is a bit connected to the previous one. So, how do you incorporate the feedbacks that you receive? Maybe when the movie is already on the floor, you get these feedbacks from the actor that some of the scenes can be done in so and so way, or any other team member, not generally the actors. Because as a screenwriter or as a writer, since the day of inception, you fall in love with your own story, and sometimes I'm sure it gets difficult for you to incorporate those feedbacks. So how do you overcome those constraints?
I feel like there are two aspects of this. One is that conviction that you have in your story. If you are very convinced that this is what the story is about, you try to tell whoever it is that this is what it is about, and therefore it is in this manner. And they give you feedback because they are not convinced that what is it that you are trying to do. Either the idea itself is not worthy of to be convinced about, or the conviction is not coming across. And if you feel that you have not been able to convince them, then you have to rethink it and come up with solutions, because that there's just to it. Also, actors, specific to actors, actors, we really don't know what they feel actually, because they are the they are either they are actually make or break, in the sense either they completely get what you're trying to do and they are with you, or they are not with you and they are worried about how they are appearing through this content. And somewhere, you all will have to come to an understanding. And this is something about cinema and filmmaking nobody talks about, is that your entire process of writing, ideating, filmmaking is only about you negotiating. And in that negotiating, good ideas will come. Some of it you will have to accept, and some of it, most of it, you will have to reject, and some of it you will have to, sort of bow down and let other people have their way. But it is literally negotiating and literally convincing other people. If it wasn't about that, then so many people would not be making such shit films. So we have to understand. I'm not saying that you should go ahead and make shit films, but I'm just saying that, we really also have to be in a position where we are negotiating. So we have to understand this art of negotiating, and negotiating with actors is one of the toughest things, because more than what they feel of the character and the story, they are really worried about how they are appearing. So you have to really appeal to them in another way, that, in some other way, depending upon who they are as a person. So that is also something we have to understand, a human psyche, that okay, I am very convinced of this, I want my character to fall down and start crying, but this actor is not wanting to do that. They're asking, but why should this happen? So you have to do whatever it takes to get it done. And if you have not been able to do that, then, you have to compromise. So that is all I have.
So I'm in the process of developing a film series project to be made in Hindi. And my professional background is not a writer, but a video producer, technical guy kind of thing. But ever since started writing a story, I think I've made significant process. But I'm stuck somewhere where I'm not able to write the screenplay. I can write the story. I can come up with a story for the next 10 films. But if I have to sort of adopt it to a screenplay, I'm getting really stuck. Does anybody have any advice for me?
Yeah, see, screenplay writing is a technical thing. I mean, it's something that you have to learn how to do. But a quick fix will be, and it takes years to learn, or maybe you will learn it like that. So there is a lot, two aspects to it. One is the technical side also of screenplay writing should not be avoided. I mean, that is where Udit, I think some point he will probably come in and he will explain the writing software and all of that. But so that aspect of navigating the software to write proper action lines and all of that, that itself is a technical thing that one has to master. That is one aspect. The other aspect of it is that every screenplay, whether it's a film or a series, follows a certain number of, as there's a certain series of patterns. Now, not all good films that we watch follows that patterns. And if you watch a film and you think that why is I never noticed the 3 act structure here, or there was no rising stakes and all of that. But most of the time, 90% of the time, at least in the beginning, you have to master certain tools of hitting there is a certain housekeeping, certain hygiene that has to be followed when writing a screenplay. So a quick fix I can give you is that Baman Irani has a class called Spiral Bound, whereby he actually takes films. He watches scenes and he reads scripts and he discusses it, and he really breaks down the screenplay writing structure into very minute parts. What is the first act, what is the inciting incident, then all of that. And then there are books also by Dan Harmon and other people. What are the components of scene? I would suggest that get into that class, because I was actually never part of his class initially, but I wanted to rewrite a screenplay of mine, which was a very, very complex screenplay. And I joined his class, and everybody said, Are yaar, you are so advanced, and now you are going in these junior classes. But I really wanted to go back to basics to understand that if I have to construct a very, very complex narrative, how can I approach it in the most simplest way possible and then work my way around it. It's like, if somebody wants to write Inception, would they actually follow some a very simple pattern, a very simple script writing pattern, but the point is, yes, it can work. So my suggestion would be to join his class and to read a little few books. There are some books like save what is that, Save the Cat, or there are a whole bunch of things. So Dan Harmon's Circle, and then there are a whole bunch of books. So just read them and understand everyone's structure, and maybe do a few master class. I can say Aaron Sorkin has a master class. So some people, writers that you look up to, you can read there, and you will get it within a couple of months. You'd be writing good screenplays.
Could you repeat the name of the first course that you said?
uh Boman Irani, the
Moment
actor,
Nine. Okay.
he has a course. It's free of cost. You just have to
Oh,
join in via Zoom. It's
sounds good.
called Spiral Bound.
I can add few things because this is the general question. When someone asks about how when we adapt a book into a screenplay, what things we can do. I think I can add something on it because it's a general question, and so many people do this. And if you see right now, so many movies even coming from the books also. It is happening in the West for so long time, but in here also in India, so many movies and even the series are, getting adapted from the books. So okay, so how can I add something? I wrote two screenplay out of the books. So what things I had, I can share those things. So first thing, when you see a book or when you see a movie, they all have a different kind of patterns. As Satvesha also added, that in movies they follow some kind of structure. We call it 3 act structure. Some has Indian has 5 act structure also. So you have to have this basic sense of when you are writing a book or when you are writing a movie. So you don't have to put it as like scene to scene, but you just read this whole book and you grasp the whole idea or the whole story. Then you, because you have written things in the past in movies, so you know how to put them into the scenes. So it's a different process, but you have to understand the whole idea of the book. And you can change things. You can change the beginning, you can change them. There are few books which has to be adapted like they were, like there are movies like Harry Potter. There are so many films like this which are exactly as the books, just a minor changes. But if you see general films, they have a lot of changes. They are totally different than the books, because books and movies follow a different kind of journey. And if you are writing for a movie, you have to follow those structures, because they are, you know uh, it's easier to understand the audience. And as Satvesha also added, when you write a book, it can be anyway. Book has a different kind of journey, different kind of storytelling. But when you work for films, either it's not experimental film, you have to follow some kind of structure. So when you are adapting a book into a screenplay for screen, you have to understand the basic things, those called acts, those called things other than these things. So you have to understand those parts. So once you master those things, it's very easy to adapt a book into screenplay.
For me, when I write, I have my main protagonist in my mind. I always start with the main protagonist, what he would be doing, what would be the structure. First, I create and recreate in my head before putting it down to the paper. But the major challenge which I face while writing is that how to accommodate other characters, how much space should I give them that they add value to the main plot, in the same time, uh, also, bringing something unique of their own, but they should be contributing to the main plot also, not overpowering the protagonist or the main plot. So I really keep questioning myself, if it is fine, shall I add this character, would I be able to do justice or not, or how to decide, that space, like how should I handle other characters around the protagonist. That's my major challenge. And yeah, I read a lot for that, and maybe other two panelists can also answer this.
For me, I think here things are different for me. So whenever I write for me when I develop the story, what I find difficulties in the language. It can be in dialogues, or also it can be in body language also. See, when I talk about language, it's not mean the character has to say something through words. It can be also through the body part also, in the body language we see. So suppose we are working on a different character which is not related to me. Let's say, suppose we are talking about a lawyer or a teacher. I didn't have any experience of those professions. So when I am writing those things, those body language, how they articulate themselves, these things sometimes can be difficult. But yeah, there are solution for those things also. One of the things, you can talk to people who are actually lawyers, who are actually teachers. You can ask them question, you can do your research, like you can read stuff, you can talk people, you can visit places. I remember I was writing something for a movie which has the main protagonist, it was a lawyer, that guy. So I literally visited some courts because my friend used to work in courts. So you sometimes it's not easy, to go places like maybe schools and courts can be sometime easier, but there are other characters also which has different kind of genres, different kind of profession. So every time you can't go actual places. What you can do, you can talk more people. As last time we discussed, we can read interviews, we can watch videos, we can just gain more knowledge out of these things. But yes, these things create difficulties when it comes to dialogues and when it comes to body language. But yes, we can recover for sure. We have solution for that also.
Well, actually, while writing, I face my most important challenge is to coming up with the first shot. Actually, I know when you're writing, you don't necessarily want to think like a director, but I mean, and this is true for even writers who write books also. They always struggle to write the first line. You must have seen in films that the first line they struggle with. So I actually struggle with the first line, what the first shot, and the first page. And in fact, all of my screenplays, I've noticed the first couple of pages is what actually requires most rewrites. So because I need to get the first shot and the first image, or the first scene and what it stands for, to be I get the entire story and I can visualize it overall, and through different scenes. Sometimes I spend nights, I'm not sleeping, but I'm just seeing the scene after the scene, and I know how it's ending. Maybe I don't know some of it, but the beginning is something I kind of struggle with. I want to get the beginning right. So that is something that I keep coming back and rewriting, coming back, rewriting. And other than that, The challenge is to, deal with other collaborators or producers, because not many people, I'm realizing, that are very proficient in genre kind of writing. They don't, they don't, they don't have. I mean, it's maybe because we are not making those kind of films, or we are not watching those kind of films. The cross genres that are happening today internationally, whether it is body horror comedy or urban thriller, surreal, there are so many cross genre stuff, and with each cross genre stuff, there are certain tropes that have to be fulfilled. They have to be subverted, or they have to be incorporated. So basically my struggle is, with basically convincing other people to explore that, and that is a collaborative thing. Yeah, so these are my struggles.
I'd like to thank Ajay, Satwisha, and Shweta for answering my queries, and thank you for inspiring and for encouraging. And I will keep your suggestions in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Kavita.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have
Writing.
one more question, that what are the critical elements while working on an idea or any foundation of any story? What sort of elements you think are critical?
I think it's critical also, it's important also. So when you are writing a story, or when I'm writing a story, or it can be a for book, it can be for film. The basic thing, what you want to convey. If you have something meaningful and you believe it, this thing. So whatever I'm saying, whether it's a horror, whether it's comedy, whether it's any kind of genre, but if I believe that I'm conveying, because see, people gonna watch it. So many people gonna put their efforts. It takes years to create one film, a few years. So when you are writing something, you have to believe the idea that if you are saying something, you're telling something, it has some meaning deep down the genre. If it can be a horror, it can be any other genre also, but it has to be something which is so hard and core, which you tells, it has some impact. There are some films maybe which don't have impact, it's fine, but when it comes to me, I believe if I'm writing something, it has their impact. And yes, every story has a purpose, so you have to find the purpose in every story you have. So I think these things so critical and also so important. So because it also gives you the power, because when you just think, okay, let's write a horror, and you just put some elements, some jump scare, some other things, okay, and you just create a film, but deep down you know this thing that it's empty. So how you can get the energy? Because when you write, you need so much time. It's a long process, and it can be hectic also. So you need certain kind of consistent energy throughout this journey, and those energy can be filled by those purpose. So I think the story right now, if we are writing something, it has to be one purpose which we believe and which we have responsibility to share to the people. So I think this purpose is so important and critical also while writing a story.
I want to build on what Ajay has actually answered. He's saying purpose. I want to use the word subtext. There are two aspects to any kind of story, that there is a narrative and there is a character, right? For me personally, I am not such a very narrative driven person. So if nothing is also happening, I can watch the film if I am convinced that this is a character that I'm on board with. So for me, in any film, a character and the way the character comes across to me, the way I am willing to go with the character, if um even if nothing much is happening in the narrative. Of course, things always have to happen for the character to show itself. But what I'm saying is that a lot of these thriller films or plot lines therefore don't appeal to me, because I don't see much of the character. However, what Ajay was saying, so for me, if in a film or a series, if I see the character is not behaving according to what was set up, I'm deeply disturbed and thrown off, and it breaks down for me. So for me, the most crucial aspect of anything is that the character should behave as it has been set out to do, and that character is, as Ajay was saying, he said the word purpose, and I'm using the word subtext, that overall, other than the story, making it personal or making it about a character, making it about genre, making it about the narrative and all of that, you there is a subtext to it. In the end of the day, what is it what you want to say, I mean, which is very big. Am I saying that society should be like this? I mean, am I saying that there should be something very specific that you are saying, which it always is better if it is little bit progressive in thought, but you should be saying something. I mean, if you make a film like Lapata Ladies, at the end of the day, what is the subtext? What are we actually saying? Okay, we have the story, we have these beautiful characters. Or if you're making a film like PK, what is the subtext? And that subtext is what actually makes the film liked. And these are such subtle things that the audience can't actually take it apart. And that is why certain films like Jawan and all that work, because the subtext is perhaps a lot bigger than the film itself. We are not able to, as a filmmaker or something, you go out there and you watch the film and you think, oh my god, what is happening, what is this film all about? But the overall subtext of the film, what it set out to achieve, is actually achieved. And even if audiences are not that film literal, they can get it, so that is very important. And I'm not saying, and that is why films like Animal and all of these films, I mean, I don't condone them. I think they should exist. But see, that's what I'm saying, ki the subtext of it is, we have to be a little bit careful about where is this going. And I'm not averse to misogyny or averse to even violence or anything, because these are existing ideas, these are things that are there, we're not going to be able to change it. But what are we actually saying, you know so we have to be a little bit careful of that. So that is where we are at.
It's a very personal opinion, but I feel okay. Sometimes like mainstream movies. Now I haven't seen a couple of movies like, let's say, some things that have been on my list like a Hira Mandi or Lapata Ladies because of some speaker issues. Okay, nothing else. And when I saw, there was this whole controversy about Animal. Okay, and they're like, this guy particularly does these things and blah blah blah. And what I kind of, when I went through the plot line very roughly online, I sensed there was no subtext. That's something I've just picked up in this conversation. I sense a certain amount of absurdity, a certain amount of, I don't know, I really, like, this is a very formal forum for somebody like me who's a novice. Full of non-seriousness, like Salman Khan or Tamil movies bring, right? A Rajnikant 10 times, he would have charged a certain amount. And I thought that Animal was not worth the discussion or the mention in the same lines as misogyny, because it just has a lot of big stars, but the guys very shortly. I sense a sense of absurdity that they were not even looking to create a plot line. They picked up some very mass elements. I know I'm a movie critic, but so I felt that there was no plot line. I didn't feel like watching the movie. And secondly, I felt too much attention was being paid to the movies being released at that time. I think 3 movies released at the same time. Animal, other 2 had zero plot line. I mean, there was no story. A very bad remake of what is that, Bridget Jones. I didn't feel like watching it, and I'm somebody who used to watch a lot of movies in the theater because back in the day there was no cell phone. And Animal again was something I was like, this is some. So I don't know why we are talking about it. So I think the entire conversation around it also was so big. Whereas if you watch, let's say, a Hira Mandi or a Lata Ladies, again, I'm okay with watching a badly made movie. I'm okay with discussing a badly made movie, but I don't want to discuss an animal because, they've just used misogyny. They purposely put it in there. It's like a joke on somebody even who watches movies regularly. So I just wanted to know as what you think about it.
First of all, as a human being and as a person with certain set of ideas, I don't actually wear my ideals on my sleeve. So if I think that I am a feminist, if I consider myself a feminist, and if I am against oppression of female, whether representation or in individuals, I don't wear that on my sleeve. At the same time, I also believe, because I also believe that anybody should be allowed to make any kind of film, because at the end of the day, people can only make whatever film they can make. They cannot make others films. And I also truly believe that there should be no censorship. People should be allowed to do anything they want to do, and by doing bad things, some good things will also come. The idea that I will impose my ideology on somebody because I don't like it is not something that is open to me. But whereas in society, what is happening right now is, where I have a problem, is that certain kind of films are being allowed, and whereas other types of films are not being allowed. That is my other problem. I have no problem that violent films exist, or misogynistic films exist, or films in which representation of women is very poor. I have no problem with that, because at the end of the day, I am not going to be able to change the filmmaker's mind or the minds of the people who are accepting it. But I do have a problem that there is a large amount of other ideals which are not coming out. A film like Monkey Man is not being released in India for whatever stupid reason, but it is not coming out. Now, having said that about Animal, I want to actually um, say a very critical point to you. I have watched a little bit of Animal, and personally, I did not like it. But I want to say this, it's a very controversial opinion. I think Sandeep Banga's films, uh, as much as I do not like them, and as much as do not they repulse me personally, I think he's making a kind of films that is a kind of film that is very unique, um, and is very unique to him, and he's got a very unique voice. Maybe it is something that you don't like it, maybe it is something that a lot of people don't like it, but it is a very unique voice, and there is a certain amount of energy, there is certain amount of male raw energy, which a lot of undermined men in young India, who are very oppressed and they feel they don't have voices, feel like they can subscribe to. And therefore, I come to this point which I explained a little bit earlier about subtext. He is using this energy, he is taking this, portraying this energy on screen, and therefore people are identifying with this energy. But at the end of the day, this energy and this ethos is going to be misplaced. It is not something that is constructive in any way. It is only going to create violence against women and oppression. And I'm not saying in any way that he should stop making films or he should change or anything. But as a filmmaker, I would think that yes, I can show violence, I can show misogyny, but there has to be a spin. There has to be something positive that I am putting out there for people to take back, you know. And I think that is missing, because the way he's showing his male characters, they and the identification that that male character has with the people of India, I'm not so sure is that is something positive overall. So therefore, I mentioned the word subtext, that one has to be a little bit careful about that. But it's not for me to, do anything about, or some people like critics to do anything about. At the end of the day, like I said, people are should be allowed to make the kinds of film they are. It is your choice whether you want to subscribe to it or not, and with enough, because it is so, the reason why you are bothered about it and why it bothers me and other people is that we are not seeing the kind of films we want to see, and yet all these other films exist. That is where the problem is happening.
But Satyasa, you made a valid point. I mean, yes, it's a, it's a, it has its own complexities. What kind of film we should watch, or what kind of film we should, and as we say, light comes only from the darkness. So darkness both has
Yeah.
to exist. If it's
Yeah.
not, it's just the good films. Good films can't come if there's no bad films. Okay, so revelation comes out of those things. So it's
Yeah.
important. Yes, but as I mentioned that if we are talking about what we're talking about purpose, so that's the thing. If you find there are films which are earning more, which has violence, which has misogyny, which has patriarchy things, they are earning more. What we can do, being a writers, we can create our own voice.
Also, in this regard,
Yeah, you
I
can go.
feel that storytelling changes, in every generation, in every era. So in 30 years back, we could not imagine a movie like Animal. So, and people write what they are committed to. And I will agree with the uniqueness point of Satresha ma'am. So, Animal movie, the writer had some uniqueness. It was different. Now, that's a different debate that how good or bad it was, but it was a different take on a
Yeah.
different topic. We have to agree.
Yeah.
So, it is, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
he was creative in his own regard, and Sanjalila Bhansali is creative in his own regard, and we have the freedom to choose what to watch
Yeah.
and what not to watch.
Yeah.
So there
Yeah.
our power lies.
Yeah.
And he was trolled and he earned money. Both happened, but filmmakers generally now do not take this ownership, or CSR, this responsibility to owe something to society. There we are
Yeah.
declining as audience.
Yeah.
I think it's audience mistake that we are accepting back to back such movies. So our responsibility also lies in what kind of movies or story making we are promoting or appreciating.
See, movies and art, is a zeitgeist. It's
Yes,
a spirit of the times, and it is
exactly.
very unfortunate if in this day and age in 2024, Animal is such a big hit. That means
True.
we have to actually wake ourselves up and see the reality that there is a
Yes,
whole group of people who actually enjoy this film. So then
exactly.
something is definitely wrong with our society. And I
Yes,
mean, if everybody was educated and everybody was doing well and everybody was so liberated, then everybody would have, trashed it. But everybody is
yes,
not trashing it. In fact, everybody is appreciating it. So we
true.
have to see that why is this happening? There is so much, something else is in the play, and we have to, even if we don't accept it, and we can say that this is not my take, but we have to see this is the spirit of the times, and we have to
Yes,
do something to change it or try or whatever. But we cannot say, oh, this is like, we have to see
yes.
for what it is.
Yes, for example, the writer or the director of the Animal, they are very proudly owning it because they knew
Yeah.
that genre, they worked on it, they showed their
Yeah.
uniqueness.
Yeah.
Similarly, Stephen King. Stephen
Yeah.
King, almost many novels are adapted into
Yeah.
movies,
Yeah.
and he proudly says that I do not keep a purpose or subtext in my writing. I just take the character and I go with the flow, and they are very absurd, horrible, violent, and people are watching it. So we have
Yeah.
to. We are also responsible in this whole process. If a
Yeah.
storyteller is there, the takers are also there.
Yeah, I think in one of the interviews, I think for Kabir Singh, Venga said that, I have also, I don't think that if I were to slap my wife or girlfriend and all, that's such a big problem or anything. So what if I slapped her?
Yes.
See, the point of the matter is, yeah, maybe if you slapped her with your level of intelligence and with your level of education, it's probably not a big deal. But think about a man, you're appropriating it in a film, and some villager, some drunk man thought that, okay, so so Kabir Singh is slapping his wife, I can also slap my wife. So the image of that person becomes bigger, the context becomes
Correct.
bigger, but he is very proud about it. He
Yes.
is not saying that I am a liberal man, he's saying I'm a misogynist guy.
Yes.
So big deal, I will appropriate that.
Correct.
And what are the further implications that is coming, he's not responsible, he's a movie maker at the end of the day. So it is what it is.
And there is one thing I want to add here. We have been this discussion, and the movie we talked about a lot is the animal.
Yeah.
See, this is the thing with the negativity attracts people. See, we are
Yeah.
talking about the films and everything, and
Yeah.
that's why it is working in India, because these
Yeah.
things appeal you a lot. We have discussed so many things, but the animal movie is, the
Yeah.
time we gave, a lot of time we are talking about director, we are talking about the story and everything. So I guess the negativity, because it has huge negativity, it attracts you. You
Yeah.
can count so many things, and
Yeah.
what we can do, I think, uh, unless trying to be in this same walk, we can change things to
Yeah.
talk about other
Yeah.
things which has a
Yeah.
good impact, like you mentioned that Monkey Man and other films also, which are not getting their
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
attention,
Yeah.
instead of talking
Yeah.
manga
Yeah.
and animal,
Yeah.
these
Yeah. I
things.
mean, instead of thinking about what shit is out there, let's create some
Exactly.
gold.
So, can you briefly elaborate about the idea of pitching
Hmm.
for a person who is not in Mumbai?
Okay. So basically, I had attended a session which had an international film programmer, and Guneet Monga was also there on pitching. And when when my feature film got selected in a lab, also we were taught to pitch. So I am coming from that, whatever I have learned. So basically, when you're making a film, you have to have a several different film or a short film or a series or whatever. You have to have a different kinds of pitches ready. One is a very, very short pitch, which is called a elevator pitch, in which you talk about what is your idea about, who's your protagonist, and what is going to happen, and what is essentially the story about. Like literally in 3 to 4 lines. It's like you're taking on an elevator ride and you have pitched it. So it's a story about a girl who wakes up in the morning and she realizes she has become an animal, and then things starts growing out of her body, and this happens, that happens, and the story is about this. Okay, so this is an elevator pitch. Okay, the more interesting you make your elevator pitch, that is a challenging thing, because the most outlandish or the crazy is it's going to sound, or the best way you can present it is what is going to generate interest. Because what you want people to say is that, oh wow, really, is your film is about that? Oh wow, that is what you want. Once you have got over the elevator pitch situation, like you tell somebody this is it, they say, oh okay, so tell me a little bit more about it. So then you start telling them a little bit about your film. So little bit about this film should be about anywhere about 4 to 7 minutes, depending upon your film, how visual it is, how story wise it is, or where is the and you have to incorporate something about your character, something about their journey, what they are seeking, what is their crisis, little bit about the story arc, and also you have to inject the mood. Now mood is very important. If your story is a crime thriller, if your story is a horror film, or if your story is a dramatic idea, you have to show that suddenly you see her sitting by the lake, and she contemplates suicide, and she looks at the water. So this one visual break suddenly in the middle of you telling the story is going to define the mood of your film, and that is very important, because people should be able to see in totality what is your character, what is the journey, what is the narrative like, and what is the mood and genre of the film. That should be about 4 to 7 minutes. And there is a story which you can narrate, that is your entire film, in about roughly 20 minutes or so, maybe a little bit less. When you meet somebody like a studio executive and they say, you have emailed them all the documents and you have told them everything, and they meet you and they say, okay, tell me about your film. That time you cannot tell them an elevator pitch or a 4 to 7 minute pitch. You have to little bit, and they are there, they're looking at your face, and they have about 10 minutes to give you, 10, 15, whatever minutes to give you. That time you take that attention and you tell them the story properly. That should take about 10 to 12 minutes or 15 minutes. So all of these pitches, you have to write them down. You cannot just say it to people, you have to write them down. You have to make sure every word matters. And as somebody who practiced pitching, I actually had to record a couple of pitches, and then there was a whole pitch fest, a couple of pitch fests I have attended. So you have to keep recording yourself, you have to time yourself, every word is very important. So yeah, pitching is very, 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 very important. It's something I was very bad at, and I have gotten better at it.
I had something in the last question of Lucky. He asked about this pitching stuff. You know, I face this a lot, like a challenge for me. And in the West, they have a different segment for this. So if you are a writer, you don't need to pitch your stories. They have agent for pitching your stories. You just have to write. So because you are a good writer, you can write good stories, and then agent will take care. But in India, especially, things are different. So if you are a writer, you also have to be one, that agent who pitch your stories. So sometimes I feel this, it's not fair, but yes, because it's in India, so you have to be there. So you have to learn this art, and any art comes with their some certain kind of rules, practices. So yes, if someone want to learn pitching, that person has to, ex- um, practice. As we say, practice makes a man perfect. So we can practice, and I have known of people who are brilliant in pitching. For me, I'm still trying to get how to do it, because I stuck in those things and I'm not good at it at all, for sure. But yes, pitching is an important part. And unfortunately, we don't have any agents here, so we have to writer have to do it their own this work also. So one more responsibility, I think. Sapnesh, I
Ajay,
want to say something.
I don't agree with you, Ajay. I think in Hollywood, this
Okay.
whole idea of pitching has come from Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
People who are writers in Hollywood, they have agents who will go and give the scripts and all of that. But the end of the day, the writers will have to talk about their stories. In fact, some of the writer directors like Guy Ritchie, Quentin Tarantino, Martin Scorsese, you should hear them pitching their stories or talking about their stories. They are extremely articulate, they know every word, they speak every word correctly, and they are excellent storytellers. So this is something Hollywood has to, in fact it has come from Hollywood. And in our industry also, we have agents, and agent route is completely is it's they are there are a lot of agents, in fact. So whether you have an agent or you don't have an agent is irrespective of the fact. As a writer, as a filmmaker, you will have to be convinced of your story enough for you to be speaking about it. So pitching is something every writer and filmmaker has to master. Yeah.
I'll add one thing this there, Satvesha. The reason I choose to become a writer was simple. I was good in writing my thoughts, expressing my thoughts rather than speaking. So if someone is good in writing, potentially it can be that person, he's find difficulties to express. It comes to me, I am not good in words when it comes to speaking. In these kind of events, when you have to do these kind of podcasts and these webinars, I feel the way I can express myself in written way, it's better. And I know it's a different thing, but this is was the reason I became a writer. I had so many incidents in my past. I could have think I can change those things, the scenario, how it happened. Maybe I should have said this thing, maybe not this way. I just rewrite everything and I can write the kind of a perfect this scene. But in reality, once you said something, it's gone forever. So this is the reason I became a writer. I want to express my feelings by writing words. So I understand this thing has to be with writer, but yeah, some people find actually difficulties, especially
Yeah.
for me, to express myself in speaking. So I'm not good at all, and these things, but it's a learning process. So I am not like give up. I'm doing it. I'm here. I'm trying to express myself speaking. Although, so yeah, it's so difficult for me, but yes.
Actually, it was very difficult for me also. I was never ever good at speaking and pitching and all of that. In fact, I used to say the same thing, that I am writing, why do I even have to speak? I mean, I've written it down, just read it.
Exactly.
But it is, and I used to think that nobody does that in Hollywood. Everybody's reading the script. It is a fact that in Hollywood people read scripts, but also they also listen to pitches. So here maybe people don't read, they only listen to pitches because we are lazy and we have many scripts or
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, it's an unfortunate part. Yeah, I mean, unless and until you're really good at pitching, there's no value. Yeah, and this is something I have learned the very, 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 very hard way. So I just want to say that
Yeah.
please hone your writing skills, but please also learn how to pitch better.
Yeah, for sure. If you want to work in the industry, you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to learn
yeah,
this for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I had so many embarrassing moments with the people. I was with actors. Hey, Ajay, you have to pitch this story, and I was all completely sitting in front of kind of famous actors, and now I have to tell. I have to recite the whole story, and I feel nervous. I was shaking, shivering. Oh my god! So yes, but it's experience. I think this also is experience. So it's a
Yeah,
learning process, and I enjoy
yeah,
whenever gives me kind of this nervousness. So yes,
yeah,
pitching is a brilliant thing, and you're gonna love
yeah,
it, you're gonna
yeah,
lose it, but
yeah.
yes.
So yeah, Studiovity is world's first closed platform application for filmmakers, and we have around 50K plus users worldwide. Patrick is also one of our users. So what we do, we are recognized by Government of India, Startup India, and all that. We are also have this recognized by IMC. We have access the startup grant of IM Kashipur. So yeah, we have solution for video pre-production in which there are certain modules like screenwriting, shooting script, AI breakdown, scheduling, call sheet, shortlist, script board, production calendar, task manager, etc. Our solutions for writers are like screenplay editor, index card, beat board. You can import and export in any format like PDF format, PowerPoint format, or text format. You can tag notes, comment, share, and collaborate in a single software. So this is how the internal screen look like. I'll show you the software. First, I'll go with the presentation now. So this is our screenplay writing modules. You can see all the elements here like scene, action, character, and all. Uh, so this is our this character analysis thing. You can create character graph, define the relation that how this particular cast is related to this particular character. Uh, so this is our pre-production module, like beatboard. You can and index card. You can add select scene act wise, like which scene you want to add on act one, which in act two, and which in act three. So this is our storyboarding. You can add images and you can create your own storyboard. This is our script breakdown. You can break down the elements by using AI. You can schedule it automatically. All the scenes like DPR kind of thing, daily production report. You can choose the scene that which scenes you want to shoot in that particular day, and you can generate the call sheet. So yeah, this is our basic call sheet, that how the call sheet goes here. You can see the schedules, scenes and all, that particular cast and all that thing. And these are the task manager. It's for the production houses that they want to send the task, that which is started, which is in progress, and which is they want to review. This is simply the production calendar to plan your entire film project and assign the budgets. These are our department module to manage all the department like cast department, costume department, makeup department, etc. Why us? We offer stay our platform. We are available on each and every device. We work on collaboration. We support more than 385 plus languages. You can access and us from anywhere, from any device. You can manage your work efficiently. You can pay as you want to use it. We have various payment options. We are 50% affordable with multi-device support. Yes, you can contact us. Now let me just go through the process. This is how our website look like. You just click on login. You can sign in by Google, Facebook. Once you log in, this is how our dashboard looks like. Just a second. So you can see all your projects here, whichever you have created. If you want to create new project, just click on add new project. You can create a new project. If you want to delete, you can delete the project. And if you want to toggle between the workspaces, you can toggle between the workspaces. Like if your project is shared with someone, it's like collaboration kind of thing. You can toggle between the workspaces of that particular owner of that particular project. This is how it's look like. This is our screenwriting module. Here you can see all the elements like scene, action, character, parenthetical, dialogue, transition, every single thing. Here we have full screen option. So while writing, you need not to be disturbed by notification and all that thing. You can write in peace. Here you can add comments if more than one people work on the same project. You can comment out that this part need to be done like this way. Next thing is index card. You can structure your scenes. For example, if you want to rearrange this, you can just put it there and it will automatically reflect on the script. You can see that which scene you want at which place. Next is the speed board. You can select the scene, that this particular scene I want to add in Act 1. You can go through the speed board. This particular scene I want to add on Act 2, and this particular scene I want to add on Act 3. This is the scene. You can add it. And if you want, this is 3 act structure. If you want, you can add 5 act structure also. And you can go to options. You can select 3 act structure or 5 act structure, it will automatically reflect on that. So you can see. Next is the shooting script is simply the script breakdown, breaking down the script in elements like cast, extras, costume, makeup, prop, set dressing, animal, vehicles, greenery, stunts, all that thing. You can generate elements automatically by AI if you want, or you can just randomly tag the elements. Like suppose I want to tag on prop, I can select prop, so it will appear here in the tag. Here we have this. Next is this character thing. You can add relationship between the character. You can add description, references, age, cast name, and all that particular thing. You can create a character graph that this particular character is connected to this particular character in the script, like the character graph, that how the characters are connected with each and everyone in that particular story. Next here is the shooting schedule. You can create shooting schedules like you can order script by scene setting, or you can second sort is you can night and day, scene setting, key numbers, days and night, night and day. You can start date, working days, and you can add day breaks like I want to day break after 4 days per day, 10-hour shift, and you can automatically create schedule, and it will automatically generate the call sheet. And if you want to add any day break under or any banner, or if you want to move that particular scene in Boneyard, you can just move it. There is a Boneyard section you can see on the new scene here. Next, you can read the script, the highlighted script, the sorted breakdown, shooting script. You can read it. Next is the shot listing. Here you can create shots like I want to add a shot. So what would be the description of that particular shot? What would be the shot size? It is close up, medium close up. You can add custom. Shot type will get eye level, low angle. You can select various things and you can always add custom. What would be the camera movement? Sorry. You can add custom anywhere you want. There are various options here. If you click on any option, you can see the estimate duration of that particular shot. Second and time. If you the subject line, what would be the back time for that particular shot? And is there any requirement for VFX? Which cam setting you are using? Cam A, Cam B, Cam C, Cam D. What sort of equipment you need in that particular shot, like a stick, handheld, gimbal, slider, jib, drone, etc. What type of lens you need to shoot that particular shot, like 10 mm, 12 mm, crossover, telephoto, wide angle, fisheye, you select. What would be the, is there requirement of any special equipment like GoPro, drone, iPhone 360 lens, etc. What would be the frame rate of that particular shot, like 25, 30 FPS, and you can add custom also. And if there is any sound requirement or any special lighting requirement, what would be the location you can add, and what would be the time, you can add date and time that particular this status, save and add another. So yeah, you save, and if you want to upload, you can upload a reference picture here. If you have any reference picture of that particular shoot, you can add the reference picture. And look like this, like a short storyboard kind of thing. Next is this call sheet. We have generated the call sheet in this scheduling thing. This is how it looks, task and all the scenes. You can add production, costume, VFX and all that particular thing, and you can share. This is the task manager, like for the production guys. They want to add the task, they can drag and drop the task they created. Like this is in progress, I can directly drag and drop it in progress tab. Next is the contact module. Here you can add contacts of your cast and crew and all the particular people working on that particular project. Next is the production calendar. This is for the planning of your entire film project, that we have divided in divided this in three major modules like pre-production, production and post-production. You can see all the different sub modules here like shooting script. You can allocate budget, you can track the percentage and all, you can add the dependency, You can add the resources, that these particular resources I need in this particular task. You can add notes also, you can add custom column also. Next, and the last module is department. You can add department wise report, like for the cast and department I have need to cast these particular people, and for the costume I need this particular costume. So these are the department wise reports for the costume department, makeup department, location and film, shooting location, scouting department, design department like arts and all, like set dressing, props and all. And the VFX department, they need their particular, if there are any special effect, visual effects and all that thing. Next is this setting. Here you can control the access of the person you want to give access on your project, like what sort of access you want to give to that particular person, that he or she can use that particular module. Like if I want to give access, uh, I want to give access of screenwriting module to Ajay, then he will only access the screenplay writing module. He will not able to access my breakdown and all that particular thing. So yeah, that's the software. So whosoever is registered, they will get a gift coupon in their mail ID. So they will get the software in a significantly very low price.
No, I like the way you mention those minute details in your software. You can start the writing until the production. So it's a great things, and I can understand the experience or the hard work you did in those creating this beautiful software. And yes, for that we can empower the more writers to get more independent right now, because as we see writers, they find difficulties to earn their earnings. When someone asks you, hey, are you writer? Yes. So what do you do for earning? Like they don't take it because of the similar reasons. They have to be independent in that way, and these kind of software actually helps. So that's a good initiative, and I
That's why we have faced a lot of time in research, and we have come to a different sort of problem, that writers, they don't have money to pay. And
exactly.
as I compare to final draft or cell text and all that
Yep.
particular kind of stuff, they are too much costly for an amateur writer or for an established writer
Mm-hmm.
also. So our pricing is 1/10 of those. We are charged around 2
Yeah.
USD per month, around
Yep.
170 rupees per month
Mm-hmm.
for the screenplay writing
That's
module.
good. That's how we
And
can start things. So
second problem is that they only give us access in English languages. That you have to write a script in your English or English languages. Here you can write in your native languages like Tamil, Telugu, Marathi, whichever language you want. You can write it. So yeah, let's wrap up this session.
Yeah.
Thanks a
I
lot.
just I
Yes, yes,
had
yes,
one
yes.
quick question, yeah, Udit.
Yes, ma'am.
You have options for rewrites in the writing thing?
Dual dialogue you are asking?
No, rewrites or collaborations with other writers in the scripting format?
Yes, yes, yes. We
Yeah,
have the
you have
option.
that. Okay, all right.
Dual dialogue we are working on. We soon be able to see the option of dual dialogue.
No, I'm not talking about dual dialogue.
No,
Actually, I'm talking
I'm
about yeah.
updating you. I'm
Okay,
updating
okay,
you
okay.
that we are
Yeah,
working on
okay,
the dual dialogue thing.
okay,
Soon
okay,
it will be live.
okay. Hmm. Okay, cool.
it was nice session
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. This was a nice session, and thank you so much, Udit, for organizing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for your
Thank
Yeah,
time,
you.
Ajay, Satwesha.
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you, everyone.
yeah.
Thanks
Thanks.
And we
everyone.
should meet quite often. I think it's the way we express things. So although also it's a learning for us, I guess. So we can plan
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah, for
next month
sure.
something
yeah,
like this.
yeah.
So I'll once upload this on YouTube, then I'll share the link with all of you.
Yeah,
Sure.
for sure.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank
Thanks so
you.
much.
Have a nice
Bye.
day. Bye
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
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 Udit.
Bye.